The Polacolor film is a diffusion transfer film, so that the dyes that are coated in the negative are designed to migrate to the positive layer over the course of 75 to 90 seconds is normal development for smaller format. 3 dyes, yellow, magenta, and cyan, will migrate. Goes in an order. Yellow is first, magenta second, and cyan last. So with image transfer, what you do is you peel it away early, start the process. Very important to get the process started so that the dyes begin their migration. And then instead of going to completion, you separated it around 12 to 15 seconds. I pretty much focused on paper, and it was paper that I would soak in water. And so you separate the negative, peel it away, and as soon as you can, there's no real imperative to get it onto the paper immediately, but the sooner the better. And you put it into contact with that wet watercolor paper, which I generally would squeegee excess water out. And then I would put it on there, and then I would roll it with a brayer to push the dyes into the paper. And so then I would let it sit for about 4 minutes. And so the process of diffusion transfer, which had begun and looking for the Polaroid positive, instead will be lured into the wet paper fibers over time. It takes a little bit longer, so I would peel that apart, and the speed of the peel would really depend on what I was looking for. If I was looking to get 100% of the dyes into the paper without any sort of interruption or gaps, I would peel it very carefully and slowly. And if I was looking to have a more experimental process, that is the dyes not sticking 100% of the paper, I would peel a little bit faster and sometimes watch as I do it. And so the longer that it went on the paper, the more the dyes would stay, and so you could keep it going that way. And so for a lot of artists, that was the end of the process. For me, it was just the beginning. Because I was looking for more of the process to fail than to succeed, this would then become sort of the basis for a reworking strategy for me. And so I used a whole variety of media over the years, starting with watercolor and retouching dyes with the larger format ones. And this, of course, the 20x24 was sort of the epitome of my working with it. I would use dry pigment and pastel. So dry pigment is essentially powder that would go into all varieties of paint. So you have pigment in watercolor, you have it in acrylic, you have it in oil paint. And so I would then stir it into the turpentine and then brush it onto the piece of paper, sometimes in a very deliberate way and sometimes in sort of a haphazard way, just to get the pigment into the paper. And what happens is the turpentine penetrates deeply into the paper fibers and into the dye structure, bypassing some of those layers, and then it's sort of permanently in there. It's very hard to get that pigment out of there once you put it in this way. And then to rework it, I would go in with sandpaper, scraping it, sometimes adding pastel over it, taking sandpaper, sometimes a power sander to go at the larger pieces, and to just radically change the way that the dyes would look in there. It's just a back and forth process. I kind of go with what the transfer has given me in terms of the strategy of the ways that I would rework it. And from there, we would get the final piece.